Construction stations.
Greetings, folks. Iolair here with another World of Warships replay. Today I've got a match of myself in the Tier 9 U.S. Navy battleship, the USS Iowa. And as I'm pulling out of dock here with the best spawn point on the map Neighbors, we are in a domination match with no aircraft carriers, and I'm top tier. There's also a very even distribution of ships with 4 battleships, cruisers, and destroyers for each team. My ship is commanded by John Doe. I have a pretty standard tank build. I take advantage of the buffed expert marksman skill, and I prefer to take priority target instead of preventative maintenance, so I have a better indication as to when destroyers may be targeting me with torpedoes. And finally, I take the artillery plotting room in slot 6 to improve the accuracy of my main guns. So a couple of highlights for this battle. This is actually going to be a fairly short match. First is my impressions or my experience with the Iowa, and the other is to talk about my opinions on tactics for the Neighbors map. So as far as the Iowa is concerned, for whatever reason, this battleship has just not clicked with me. Up through the North Carolina, I felt like I had done quite well in the U.S. Navy battleships. Even the Colorado, which generally has a very poor reputation, I played before it received its Sigma buff, and I did quite well in that ship. And to me, its biggest problem was that it was slow. But otherwise, I thought its guns were quite solid, and I did quite well in that. In the North Carolina, I think I did well in, and it has a good reputation, and it's well deserved. Its ballistics are a little bit wonky. You have to get used to because the shells are really slow, but otherwise is a terrifyingly accurate ship. The Iowa, on the other hand, just, like I said, hasn't clicked with me for whatever reason. And prior to this battle, my average damage was probably in the upper 60k, maybe 70k per game. And it just wasn't, jiving with me very well. But this game is going to be a very good one for me. So this was a pleasant surprise. I'm going to get another salvo out here on this Buffalo that we were... Buffalo. Want to get the radar out of the game as quickly as we can for our destroyers. Now, as far as the Neighbors map is concerned, I am a strong believer in playing an Alpha and Bravo strategy on this map. And you may have noticed in chat at the beginning that I had requested that we go Alpha and Bravo because Charlie is generally a trap. And in my early experience with World of Warships, I tended to go to the Charlie cap. And I think a lot of people gravitate there because there is a lot of cover, but that cover is also it's a double-edged sword. What happens for a lot of teams is that they send a lot of ships to Charlie. They like being in that cover. They stay at Charlie. It kind of becomes this prison of islands that they get stuck in. And it's very hard to try to get center map control and get control on Bravo from Charlie. And it's a lot easier to do it from Alpha, even though there is a lot less cover. So long as the battleships are pushing, which is the example that I'm trying to set here and there, I finally get a good salvo and take out the Buffalo. So long as the battleships are pushing the flanks and can drive to get Alpha and then get into center map control, that is, to me, has been generally a very good strategy as to win. If the opposing team wants to stay in Charlie and continue to control that cap and just mill around there, that's fine, so long as you have Alpha and Bravo and can focus ships as they're trying to push out of Charlie. Generally, that can be a very winning strategy. Now, I had asked a couple of times in chat that we start pushing to Bravo. Naturally, I'm not setting a good example here because I'm trying to cut off the Sinup and the opposing Iowa that are pushing toward Alpha. And here, this is actually my first close engagement in a battleship against an opposing Soviet battleship, and the rumor was that these battleships are squishy. So yeah, the Soviet battleships definitely seem to be pretty squishy side on. I mean, I suppose that with 406 millimeter guns, against most broadside battleships, other than maybe German battleships or even the French battleships at that range, it might be quite straightforward to get a couple of citadels and take out a ship. So I don't know that that's a completely fair assessment of the tankiness of the Soviet battleships, but it definitely corroborates the the belief that the Soviet battleships were quite squishy. So again, coming back to the tactical situation, our Fletcher, I have to give hats off to because he went and has been trying to hold off the flank from pushing through at Charlie. Our Seattle is up there as well. He's trying to keep, in fact, he's quite surrounded, but is still able to sort of help delay the opposing team's flank coming from Charlie. And I, again, have been trying to get turned back towards Bravo. We did get the Sinop down. I'm trying to push off the Iowa here. I'm giving him way too much side, frankly. And the same way I punish the Sinop, the Iowa here could be punishing me. But I'm really eager to get back towards Bravo. Our allied Fletcher that I mentioned earlier is able to take down the opposing Scharnhorst, which definitely helped a lot. And that leaves the opposing team with just this one battleship, the Iowa. I'm going to get one more salvo out here. Again, I'm trying to angle in, but I'm still desperate to get over to the Bravo Cap. Again, a pretty disappointing salvo. I mean, shot at the waterline. He's not going very fast. I just didn't get very much in the way of pens. I do have the Missouri, and my opinion is that the Missouri is considerably more accurate. I'm making my turn now, even though, again, this is a little bit risky, but I'm confident that our Allied destroyer is, in fact, going to take out the Iowa, and now I can start pushing back towards Bravo. So I'm going to type in a chat here. I'm going to tell the team that I'm going to take point at pushing Bravo, and I would like to have some destroyer screening. So fortunately, my allied, I think it's Yukikaze, which is on my port side, is going to push forward here and provide some screening. We do have the Udaloy that's in Bravo, but the Udaloy generally has pretty terrible concealment, plus he's firing his guns. So he's making himself a pretty easy target, I think, for this York and maybe the New Orleans to some extent. So he needs to back off, hold his fire, and just give us some spotting. Now, we fortunately have, in fact, I think we have still all 4 of our battleships, whereas the opposing team has lost all of their battleships. So this game is very well in hand. I wanted to talk about this mainly, like I said, about my experiences with the Iowa. This is turning out to be a much better match than I normally have. I've only had a few matches over 100K, so this is definitely the best one that I've had so far in the ship. And like I said, I also wanted to talk about tactics for neighbors. It wasn't so much about, how badly we're beating up on the opposing team, although we are doing that pretty readily here. Get some shots out here on the opposing Moss. There's 2 opposing destroyers on the team, the Moss and the Benson. Benson was last seen at Foxtrot 8, but hasn't been seen for a while. But there's going to be some comments in chat later about how the Benson's sort of been hiding and stuff, and I'm not going to question the Benson. I think the Benson expressed some frustration with his team. Some of it might be valid, but based on the results, it's not clear how much the Benson was able to contribute. Got this low health, or I have this York whose engine is taken out. This is a terribly placed shot, so I'm going to fully admit that was a really poor shot. His engine is out, and he obviously doesn't have last stand, but I could have aimed that much better, overmatched his bow, and gotten a Citadel hit through the bow, but as it was, I aimed a little too far behind, and it ended up getting only 1 overpen. I am going to prioritize the Moss here, even though the York might be an easier target to hit. It, in my opinion, is generally always preferable to go after the opposing destroyers first. I am going to get a number of pens. In fact, that is a place where, had the old mechanic of allowing normal pens on destroyers from battleships still be in effect, that would have taken out the Moss. But as luck would have it, he gets the effect of only 4 overpens instead of 3 normal pens. Avoid the torpedoes from the Mogami, which is still milling around in Charlie. Again, he doesn't have much in the way of options because we've got both flanks covered and we have all of our battleships. So the opposing team really doesn't have much in the way of options. Like I said, the destroyers can help carry things with good torpedo drops, but we've taken out the Moss, and the Benson we haven't seen for quite some time. Again, a broadside shot, 5 overpens. Again, that probably just mounts up to RNG than anything else. I think my aiming was okay. It was just unfortunate that I didn't get a better strike than that. I did turn in here. I expected torpedoes from the York, given the way he had turned, which he did in fact send. And then I'm going to finish off the York here because I don't want him to like try to get more torps off, because I only saw one set. I don't know if he had held on to his other set. And then I'm going to turn and make another turn here because I'm expecting the Mogami has sent torpedoes based on his profile towards the direction that I was headed. And so now I'm going to turn away from him. And in fact, I will detect one set of his torpedoes. There they are, since I did expect that he was sending them. Again, another slightly frustrating salvo there. I think my aim here is pretty good. It's just that just getting a lot of overpens, and oh, there's Confederate. So that was a pretty good hit. So up to almost 130,000 in damage. We're wrapping this game up. The team is down to just a few points. And here's the New Orleans and broadside shot. See how this looks. That's just the back set. And 1 overpen. We do now detect the opposing Benson. He's over in the, what looks like the Foxtrot 10 sector. Again, not clear. I think he was, like I said, he would express some frustration in chat here in a moment about his team. Kind of felt like he may have given up a little bit, although he does sink one of our allies, so he is able to contribute. I do get finally a very good salvo on the New Orleans, almost take him out, and then I would think that with my back gun I'd get an overpen and finish him, but no such luck. We do end up sinking the New Orleans, and that's going to wrap up the game here because the Benson's going to stay in concealment and we're going to win on points. So a very good game for me in my experience with the Iowa. Again, this ship just hasn't clicked with me very well. Lynn Wilkie, whom my regular viewers will recognize, is a battleship main, and he said this, in his opinion, was the weakest of the Tier 9 battleships. So I don't know if it's fair to say that the Iowa is necessarily the weakest of the Tier 9 battleships. For me, I have had less success with her than with some of the other ships, but that's just my experience, and all ships can be played well and have success in. So with that, I hope you enjoyed the replay and the commentary. Please do leave your comments below, and as always, we hope to see you out there, and we wish you happy sailing.